Welcome to the deep dive. So today our mission is to unpack a text that fundamentally challenges basically everything we assume about human health, biology, and even the nature of the universe itself.
Yeah, it really goes that far.
It does. We are looking at this highly unconventional, deeply philosophical essay from the year 2006, and it's titled Hospitals and Doctors Will Disappear on Lifechanyuan Era.
Quite the title.
Right. And it was written by an author who goes by this rather grand name of Deiform Celestial.
And just as a quick heads up for you listening to this deep dive, we really need to clarify something up front. This text dives into some incredibly radical, very controversial, and politically charged views regarding medicine, aging, and society as a whole.
Right. Highly controversial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to be completely clear, we aren't taking sides here. We are not endorsing any of these medical or philosophical viewpoints today. Our goal is just to be your guides. We're impartially reporting on this fascinating material to break down the logic of this utopian worldview and just to kind of see what makes it tick.
Exactly. We are looking at this purely as a window into a mindset, one that attempts to merge spirituality, biology, and, the ultimate destiny of humankind. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of mechanical precision, like you twist your ankle, it swells up, the doctor points to a specific ligament, and they say, well, there it is, that's the physical cause.
Right, very straightforward cause and effect.
Yeah, but the core premise of this 2006 text, it just throws that clean biological cause and effect completely out the window, like all of it.
It really does. It replaces that entire biological model with a purely spiritual one. The author basically posits this world where every single physical ailment you have ever experienced from, it's like a sore back, to a severe illness, to even a completely random accident, is actually caressed by your thoughts.
Which is just a massive claim.
It is. The text explicitly claims that diseases are basically, in almost all cases, a reflection of a disability of spirit and soul.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Because it's like viewing the physical body purely as a dashboard indicator light for the soul.
I like that analogy.
Right. So if the check engine light comes on, say, your waist aches or your knee gives out, this text argues it's not because, you lifted something heavy or slept in a weird position.
No, that about.
It's because your inner consciousness is faulty. The author says these physical aches are led by, quote, bad habits of daily lives. But then it doesn't stop there. The text takes this massive leap into the metaphysical.
Yeah, it really escalates. It doesn't just stop at, say, a backache caused by stress. The author writes that misfortunes and calamities are due to the indecent consciousness.
Indecent consciousness.
Right, and they define this indecent consciousness as a mind that is cluttered with selfishness, greed, closed-mindedness, and basically a lack of appreciation for the natural order of things.
And see, this is where I have to push back a little, or at least try to wrap my head around the logic here.
Sure.
Because the text literally lists things like getting a lumbar sprain, bruising your arm, getting bitten by a snake, or even getting into a car accident.
Yeah, it lumps all those in together.
And I'm just trying to picture the mechanics of this. How on earth could a completely random event like a snake biting you in the woods or another driver T-boning your car at an intersection possibly be tied to your spiritual morality?
It's a huge stretch for our modern mindset.
Right. Wait, how does a bad thought literally summon a car to crash into me?
Well, it's not that the author believes your bad thoughts are casting, like a literal summoning spell on that other driver.
Okay, good.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how the author constructs the underlying mechanics of the universe to explain this causality. To understand the why behind the snake bite or the car crash, we really have to look at the author's reliance on the concept of energy flow.
Energy flow. Like the Tao.
Exactly, specifically the Tao, which is this ancient philosophical concept that refers to the natural, effortless way of the universe.
So how does the Tao relate to, say, a random snake bite?
So, the author believes that the universe operates essentially like a giant, perfectly calibrated immune system.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. The text explicitly states, quote, not being stuck, there will be no pain, and pain always comes with something being stuck.
So it's all about blockages.
Right. They argue that the human body is a non-material structure of life. So when your consciousness is pure, meaning you are kind, selfless, open-minded, you vibrate in perfect harmony with the Tao, you are flowing.
Okay, I'm following.
So in that state, the snake won't bite you because, energetically, you belong in that forest just as much as the snake does. You aren't a disruption to the environment.
Ah, I see. But if you have that indecent consciousness, like if you are greedy or stressed or selfish, you suddenly become an energetic blockage.
Exactly. You become the exact opposite of flowing. You become a disruption to the Tao. And just like the human body attacks a pathogen, the universe's natural flow basically collides with your blockage.
And that collision is the car crash.
Yes. Or the bruising. Or the snake bite. The physical trauma merely indicates a pre-existing misalignment in your non-material structure.
That is wild.
It is. And the author points to the natural world as proof of this concept, actually. They note that the plant world and the animal world, well, they don't have doctors or hospitals, yet they live, grow, and die in perfect harmony with the Tao.
And humans, the text argues, are doing the exact opposite. It says, people who should die yet not dying and who should live yet dying are on the contrary to Tao.
Which is a very harsh way to look at it.
Yeah, and it describes our modern society as the messy man's world. But, you know, if we accept this radical premise that a twisted ankle or a car crash is actually a moral failing or a spiritual blockage, it creates this massive logical problem for the real world.
A huge one.
Right. I mean, what are we supposed to do with the millions of doctors currently treating our physical symptoms right now?
Which is, yeah, a huge structural dilemma in this philosophy. Because if all illness is fundamentally a flaw in consciousness, then our entire modern approach to physically treating illness with medicine, pills, surgery, it must be completely misguided.
You'd think the author would call for the immediate abolition of all hospitals, right? Just tear them all down.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But they actually make a very interesting, pragmatic concession here.
They do. Surprisingly, the text doesn't entirely write off doctors in the present day.
No, it doesn't.
The author actually acknowledges that the healthcare industry is developing rapidly, and they state that it currently benefits people. They even write that they hope more and more good doctors and medicines become available right now.
It seems so contradictory on the surface. But it actually makes sense within the author's broader philosophy.
How so?
Well, they use a specific phrase to explain this. They say, however persuasive good is, evil is still stronger.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. In the author's view, humanity's collective consciousness is currently so degraded, so indecent, that we are generating massive amounts of physical illness. We are just too sick, spiritually and physically, to quit medicine cold turkey.
So we're kind of stuck with it for now.
Exactly. We need doctors as a temporary crutch to survive our own spiritual failings until we can evolve.
But, and this is a massive, but for the author, they ultimately view modern medicine as a trap. And the mechanism of that trap is incredibly psychological.
It really is.
There's this fascinating claim in the text where the author tells the reader to look closely at this interesting phenomenon. They say that people who can easily find doctors or who go to hospitals conveniently are actually the ones who get sick more often.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text claims that the more medical magazines people read, and the more they concern themselves with medicines, the better chance they have of getting sick.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive to how we live today.
Totally. The author references an article titled, Chasing the Sun, Escaping Darkness to formulate a direct parallel. They say, chasing diseases, one can hardly get health.
I really want to dig into the how of this, because obviously, just reading a health magazine doesn't physically transmit a virus to you.
Right, you don't catch a cold from paper.
Exactly. So is the author talking about, like, psychological stress lowering the immune system, or is it something more mystical? Because the text literally says, the thing you feared more will come to you faster.
It's a bit of both, honestly, but leaning heavily into a cosmic manifestation mechanic.
Like The Secret or the law of attraction.
Kinda, yeah. The argument is that the universe responds to where you direct your conscious energy. If your brain is constantly brimmed with the concept of disease, which is what happens when you are surrounded by hospitals, taking preventative screenings, and constantly reading medical media, there's basically no space left in your consciousness for the concept of health to take root.
Wow. So focus on disease, you get disease.
Exactly. By constantly monitoring yourself for illness, you are energetically inviting that exact illness into your non-material structure.
It's a total rejection of our modern preventative medicine mindset. I mean, in our society, reading health magazines, getting your annual checkups, monitoring your symptoms, that is seen as being proactive and responsible.
It's the responsible thing to do.
Right. But here, it's viewed as literally manifesting your own destruction. It's like staring at that check engine light we talked about so intensely that you actually cause the engine to explode.
That is a perfect way to describe it. And this psychological critique of manifestation is also paired with a very sharp economic critique from the author.
Oh, yeah, the financial side.
Right. The author observes that despite all of our massive medical advancements, diseases are actually on the rise globally. We aren't eradicating them, we are multiplying them.
Which is a fair observation of the modern world.
Yeah, and the author paints this incredibly bleak picture of the real-world consequences of this. People are spending their entire life savings just to treat a disease, going into severe medical debt, and then ultimately dying anyway on a hospital bed.
Right. The text describes this outcome as leaving eternal misery to those who are alive.
It's devastating.
The pursuit of physical health through modern medicine doesn't just fail to cure the spiritual root of the disease. It actively breeds more financial ruin and emotional devastation for the families left behind.
Exactly.
So the whole medical system is framed as this giant, well-intentioned machine that is actually accelerating our separation from the natural flow of the universe.
You nailed it. And that harsh critique of the financial and spiritual toll of medicine is the logical bridge to the author's most radical and arguably most jarring practical guideline for how human beings should live their lives.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the text moves from this abstract philosophy into a very stark, very concrete set of instructions. It lays out a hard rule. People over 60 years old should no longer go to the hospital, period.
It is a profound shift in how society views aging and medical intervention.
It really is.
And to understand this, we need to clarify what the author means by a cycle of 60 years. The text operates on the belief of transmigration.
Okay, transmigration.
Right, which is basically the idea that the soul cycles through different physical forms or lifetimes to learn, to experience things, and to evolve.
So transmigration is essentially reincarnation or soul cycling.
Basically, yes.
And the text says that by age 60, one transmigration cycle is just complete. It states that a 60-year-old has already eaten what they should have eaten, drunk what they should have drunk. It even says, and this phrase really stuck with me, they've played with the mud they were supposed to play with.
It's a very vivid image.
Right. Emphasizing that a full human experience has just been checked off the list by that age.
The rationale the text provides is, well, why is it still bothering? If you are perfectly healthy at 60, then great, you just keep living your life.
You don't have to force an exit.
Exactly. But if you fall ill after that 60-year mark, the text says destiny is calling, and it's time to transition to the next transmigration. You don't fight it with pills or surgeries. You just yield.
And this is where I have to step in and really question the societal implications of this, because saying someone over 60 has played with the mud they were supposed to play with feels incredibly dismissive of the value of elders in a community.
It does sound very harsh to modern ears.
I mean, people over 60 are leaders, caregivers, mentors. They hold immense wisdom. How does the author reconcile this brutal medical cutoff with the idea of a compassionate, spiritually pure utopia?
This raises a really important question,
Mm.
and it really highlights the stark difference between our modern humanist perspective and the author's cosmic perspective.
Because they don't value life the same way.
Right. The author doesn't value the preservation of biological life in the same way we do. They view the physical body as an entirely temporary vessel.
Just a rental car.
Exactly. So when the text instructs that a person should accept death, when their existence becomes, quote, valueless to his or her relatives, friends, and burdensome to society, it isn't coming from a place of malice.
Even though it sounds like it.
Right, it sounds terrible. But in the author's logic, resisting death when it naturally arrives causes energetic suffering for everyone involved. It throws off the Tao.
The adjectives it uses for how you should face this transition are wild, too. It says you should be easy, brave, and open-minded.
Yes. By accepting death gracefully at the end of a 60-year cycle, the individual is supposedly clearing the way. They're keeping the system flowing instead of getting stuck.
Flowing instead of stuck. Back to that main theme.
Exactly. The author is essentially arguing against the modern medical instinct to preserve biological life at absolutely all costs, regardless of the quality of that life or the immense financial and emotional burden it places on the collective.
It's a very stoic, almost brutal acceptance of mortality designed to cleanse what the author earlier called the messy man's world.
That's a great way to summarize it.
It prioritizes the spiritual flow of the universe entirely over the biological continuation of the individual. But all of this, the rejection of medicine, the acceptance of death at 60, the focus on spiritual purity over physical treatment, what is it all building toward? Where does this philosophy actually lead humanity?
Well, that leads us to the grand final vision of the text, the arrival of what the author calls the Lifechanyuan era,
The Lifechanyuan era.
Yes, this is the utopian endgame, where the messy man's world is finally cleansed and completely reorganized.
And it is a sweeping, absolute vision of the future. The author describes an era where hospitals and doctors completely disappear.
Gone entirely.
Right. But it doesn't stop at healthcare. Nations, religions, political parties, and even families, all of these foundational human constructs entirely vanish.
It's a total reset. And to understand the sheer scale of this vision, we really have to look at the personal lore the author injects into the essay.
Oh, yes, the backstory.
Yeah, this isn't just a political or social theory. It operates on a massive cosmic scale.
Yeah.
The author, identifying as a deiform celestial, claims to actually hail from a 1,000-year world.
Right, a place where no one ever gets sick and everyone naturally lives for 1,000 years before peacefully transitioning without ever experiencing any kind of disease.
And they claim to have traveled even further than that to a 10,000-year world and to the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world.
The names are so elaborate.
They are. And in these higher realms, celestials apparently live for tens of thousands, even hundreds of millions of years, without ever even conceptualizing what an illness is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a scale of existence that makes all of human history look like a microscopic blip.
And the author's goal is to bring this cosmic blueprint down to Earth. The promised Lifechanyuan era is described as a direct copy of this 1,000-year world of heaven placed right here on our planet.
Heaven on earth, literally.
Exactly. In this era, everyone has a job, everyone has food, everyone is free and independent. The text literally asks, if you have all that, why there is illness? Playing games is better than getting sick.
Which, I mean, sounds incredibly idyllic. Who wouldn't want that?
Right.
But we really need to examine how the text proposes we achieve this perfect health, because the cure is no longer external. You don't go to a clinic.
Right, there are no doctors.
Exactly. The text states that Lifechanyuan itself is the best hospital, and that it treats diseases from the root invisibly, like conquering an enemy without fighting a massive war.
The author gives a very specific prescription for this, too. Before the era fully arrives, they claim to have invented a method.
A daily practice.
Yeah, if you spend just half a day every day to practice this method, every disease will be cured, and no disease will ever entangle you again.
And let's clarify how this half-a-day practice supposedly works.
Yeah.
Because it's not a physical workout.
It's not like hitting the gym.
No, not at all. It's a rigorous process of self-soothing and mental realignment. In this future era, everyone basically becomes their own shrink and their own doctor.
So you have to fix yourself.
Right. You cure your own illness by constantly auditing your consciousness. You have to ensure you have no greed, no fear, and no attachments that could cause an energetic blockage.
It sounds exhausting, honestly.
It does. And however, there is a crucial exclusionary catch-22 built into this utopian vision that we have to talk about.
Yes, the fine print of heaven.
The fine print is rough. The text is absolute on this point. It states, quote, "Human life leading heaven has no disease in their previous life. Sick people would not enter into heaven."
Wait, read that again?
Sick people would not enter into heaven. And furthermore, it says, sick people can't enter into Lifechanyuan era.
It's a staggering paradox.
It really is.
I mean, it's like an exclusive gym that promises to give you the perfect, healthy body, but you're only allowed to buy a membership if you already have six-pack abs.
That is exactly what it's like.
The utopia is supposed to be the ultimate hospital that cures everything, but you literally aren't allowed through the doors if you are currently sick.
Precisely. The author tells the reader to take care in advance and become their own doctors. You have to be perfectly well, spiritually and physically, to even qualify for this disease-free world.
So you have to be perfect to get into the place that makes you perfect.
Right. It creates a reality where the utopia is exclusively reserved for those who have already achieved perfection completely on their own.
So what does this all mean, bringing this all together?
Well, we've traversed a landscape where a twisted ankle is a moral failing.
Yep.
Where reading a health magazine manifests illness, where hitting 60 means peacefully opting out of medical care to just yield to the Tao, and where utopia is a VIP club only for the perfectly healthy.
Is a lot to take in.
It is. It is a text that attempts to solve the incredibly complex, painful human problems of disease, aging, and societal strife by placing the burden entirely, 100%, on individual consciousness and spiritual purity. And, regardless of how one feels about the specific, highly controversial claims made in this 2006 essay, engaging with it forces us to reflect on our own paradigms.
It really
Yeah,
does.
exploring these mechanics challenges you to think about how much power we truly assign to our mindset versus our physical biology. It forces us to confront our deep-seated anxieties about aging, the staggering financial realities of medical debt, and our cultural obsession with extending biological life at basically any cost.
It really holds up a mirror to the messy man's world, which I think leaves us with a final lingering question for you to ponder.
Let's hear it.
The author claims that in this perfect Lifechanyuan era where disease doesn't exist, constructs like countries, religions, and even families would naturally disappear.
Because people would be completely free, healthy, and independent.
Right. A world without bonds because there is no biological vulnerability tying us all together.
Exactly.
And it makes you wonder, is human connection, our families and our societal structures really just a byproduct of our shared vulnerability to sickness and death?
That is a deep thought.
Think about that check engine light we talked about at the very beginning. If the dashboard of our bodies never flashed a warning, if we never broke down, if we became biologically immortal tomorrow,
Would we still need each other?
right, would we actually abandon our families and our nations? Or do we need those connections for something far deeper than just surviving our own fragility?